Abel's here. Well, hello and welcome. My name is Abel1. I am co-founder of the Emerald Immersion gaming community. Emerald Immersion is a network for gamers. We are heavily involved in PlanetSide 2 and a lot of our members come from there. But we also run Minecraft and various other games along the way. If you are interested in Emerald Immersion, we do have a website, www.emeraldimmersion.com. You are welcome to check that out, and I will place a link in the description. Co-founder is a very generous title given to me by the actual founder, which is Kyle, who you may also know as Mr. Coronas. So just a little explanation before we get started. This is my first video. It's going to be a very brief sort of a brief noob tutorial on sort of how to get into space, building a simple rocket and setting up a node. And we'll probably just look at deorbiting as well and how we can get our Kerbals safely back to the ground. Not going to focus too much on any real technical stuff. This is just going to show how easy it is to get into orbit, how easy it is to build a rocket that will get you into orbit, and then maybe in the next one we will focus on getting to the Mun. So just to explain, we are not using any mods at all. Although, what is that box in the right hand side, I hear you ask? This is the only mod we are using. It is a new mod called KMP, Kerbal Multiplayer, and yes, it is multiplayer, and yes, it does work. Several of our Emerald Immersion members have already logged in and tested it out, and it seems to be pretty nice. It's available for download from the spaceport and is created by a guy called Sean Essau, and I hope I pronounced his name correctly. So, without any further ado, let's get started. So we're going to go to the vehicle assembly building. I'm just going to build a simple rocket. So I'm just going to use the Command Pod Mark 1. One thing you should remember when putting together any rocket is the lighter it is, the better it is. Of course, the heavier it is, the more engines you need, the more fuel you need, the heavier it gets. It's all a big massive differential equations. But we don't have to really focus on anything like that. So I'm just going to stick a simple fuel tank on there. And we're going to use the very low powered liquid fuel engine LV909. That's for our final stage. We don't need anything more than that. That engine will be sufficient to push this along nicely. And we're going to stick a parachute on top just so our brave Kerbanaut can get back to Kerbin. So second stage, I'm going to add the TR18A stack decoupler there. Second stage, going to add 2 fuel tanks and the more powerful LVT30 liquid fuel engine. Probably don't need a great deal more than that, to be honest, to get into orbit, but I do like my slightly OP rockets, so we're going to add a radial decoupler there. That is the TT70 radial decoupler. And then I'm going to add the same configuration to the sides as I've got in the central column. And now I am going to add an external fuel duct. This is a part that allows fuel to flow from one tank to another. You need to place it first on the tank that you want the fuel to flow from, and then into the tank that you want it to flow to, and you'll see that there are arrows on that showing which way the fuel will flow. That means that when I have these engines going, fuel will be flowing from this fuel tank and this one and the connected fuel tank into the central fuel tank. So it means that when these fuel tanks are empty, this central fuel tank will still be full, even though I've had all the engines burning. And all I'm going to do now is put my symmetry onto the 4 times, and that will line up these tanks nicely. And just for effect more than anything, I'm going to put a nose cone on there, and that is pretty much my rocket. Just make sure that's on there so I can launch properly. Make sure I'm not 100 meters in the sky when I'm taking off. And I just need to check my staging. Staging is here on the right hand side, and you'll see as I mouse over the various components, they appear and they light up to indicate which stage we are looking at. So normally it doesn't work particularly well. See, I've got the central engine here. I just want that to be in the original starting stage. So I think that's all present and correct there. We then have the couplers there that will jettison those fuel tanks once they're empty. That's in the correct position. Then we have the final stage. Now all these are bunched up. Just going to move this engine down there so I'm not activating my parachutes when I'm activating that final stage. Okay, and I think we're ready to launch. So here we are on the landing pad. Now there are various things that I like to do when I'm taking off. I'm sure the more seasoned of you out there will have a difference of opinion, and that's fine. I've kind of got into a habit of doing things, but it seems to work. So what we're going to do is default key for launching and sort of activating your stages is spacebar. So in a moment I'm going to hit spacebar, we're going to throttle up, and we're going to shoot for the stars. What I normally do is keep an eye on the atmosphere indicator here. That shows how thick the atmosphere is that you're flying through. There's a lot of advanced techniques that you can use when taking off. I'm not going to cover those there here really. All we need to do is just punch our way out of the atmosphere. But there are various maneuvers that I do like to make in order to make that orbital insertion a bit easier. So once we hit the darker blue section, that's normally it's about 13,000 meters. I normally take a 45-degree maneuver to the east. Just the way I like to do things. You can go any way at all. It's just a lot easier doing it to the east. That is the direction that Kerbal is spinning. And then normally about 30,000 meters I will make another maneuver to the east again, altering my pitch towards the horizon, and that will sort of flatten out a bit my orbital trajectory, but I will show you as we go on. So first things first, we'll activate the SAS. Default key is T. That will ensure our craft doesn't meander all over the place on takeoff. I will alter, I will put my throttle to full, and then we will space, and we're off. Now this, like I said at the beginning, this vessel is going to be completely OP. You can see my velocity here. My acceleration is increasing nicely. I'll probably have to make my manoeuvres a little bit earlier, just due to the fact that I've got a hell of a lot of power on this little rocket. We're just going to keep an eye on this counter and this, which is our altitude at the moment. And you will see here I have all 5 engines burning, but with those fuel lines, these tanks in the centre remain completely full. Right, I'm going to look at making my first manoeuvre now, 45 degrees to the east. If you get a bit of spin in your rocket there, it's nothing to worry about. I believe that's down to the gimballing in the engines. You may want to disable that, but it may make it quite a bit harder to manoeuvre your craft without it. So already I've only just completed my manoeuvre and I'm going so fast, I'm at 30,000. And there's my staging just gone, so I'm going to jettison those tanks there. And at 35 I'm now going to head more towards the horizon, try and flatten out that trajectory. Now at this stage you probably want to be heading into the map screen, and you will see here we have this blue line that indicates our rocket's current trajectory. This tag at the top, this indicates the apoapsis. This is the highest altitude we will reach before then descending. On the other side there will be a tag called the periapsis. That is the lowest altitude that we will reach once we're in orbit, but we won't see that until we have a circular orbit. It doesn't matter what orbit, what altitude you really get to. I'm going to cut my engines there. You will see my current apoapsis is 190,000 meters. So I'm going to, well, we're going to have to wait for our craft to reach that apoapsis before making a manoeuvre, and I'll explain that in a second. So, you'll notice as I mouse over that, a blue dot, a blue ball will appear. And anywhere on there I can click and add a manoeuvre. This is called a manoeuvre node. This will show your likely trajectory if you make certain actions, and you can define those actions, and you can do that using these icons that appear here. So we're not really interested in these, but I'll give a quick explanation. Hopefully I can do it fast enough before my craft reaches the apoapsis here. So these green ones here, you can drag them, and you'll see that will increase. That will then make this dotted line appear, which is the likely outcome of the actions that we're going to take. So these green icons, this is increase acceleration, and then obviously this one with the cross in it is decrease acceleration. The purple ones are useful if you need to change the attitude of your orbit. You can change the angle by degrees, so if we pull it down you'll see it changes like that. We're not going to mess with that, but that's useful if we wanted to get to say Minmus, which you can see is on a slightly eccentric sort of orbital plane there. But we're not going to Minmus, we are just going to simply get into orbit and then get out of orbit. These blue ones, I'm not sure what they are quite useful. I'm not sure I have the vocabulary to explain them really, but it kind of shifts the orbit to the left or to the right. Again, we're not going to mess with those. We don't need to, but they can come in handy. So we're just going to increase our orbit, just make it circular. So if you remember, our apoapsis is 190. want to make it as circular as possible. So we're going to look for the other side to emerge. You can see the periapsis there, and we want to get that to around 190. You're not going to get it totally accurate, but approximate. So we've got 186 there, that will do. Now you will notice the nav ball. The nav ball is every Kerbinaut's best friend. It shows the direction you are accelerating. Opposite that will be obviously the direction you will need to decelerate should you want to. This blue marker is our maneuver node that I have just set up, so that's where I'm going to want to focus my attention. You will see next to the nav ball, since I set up the node, we have this node information that's appeared. That tells me that at a full burn with my current engine it will take 28 seconds, and I need to do about 584.3 meters per second in order to achieve that circular orbit. And it's also telling me that I'm going to encounter my node in 54 seconds. Normally what I would do would be obviously to increase that time to get there faster, but I spent so much time talking that we are almost there, 30 seconds. I might just speed it up a little bit. So 2 seconds in, and I'm going to hit my engines, and you can see that is ticking down nicely as I do that acceleration burn, and you will see the blue line, my true trajectory, is moving, and it will match with this dotted yellow line, which is the estimated trajectory after I have completed that maneuver. And there it is. What we want to do after that is just close that node. If we're making multiple, if we're doing a longer mission and we're going to need to use multiple nodes, you'll want to close each node after you've completed them, otherwise it gets very messy. And there we have a circular orbit. And our brave Kerbinaut, Jebediah Kerman, can now view his home world in full glory. Isn't that pretty? So now, what I'm going to focus on is just deorbiting. Very, very easy to do. You don't need to set up any nodes really. If you wanted to land in a particular place, say back at the Space Center, what we could do is set up another node, add the maneuver, and click on the decrease acceleration. And you will see, I think that the Space Center is around there. So as you will see, we can kind of get that on there. Now you need to remember, and the nodes don't take this into account, that I've got that dead on the Space Center there. Kerbin is actually spinning, so eventually that node is going to become a little bit obsolete because Kerbin has spun right past it. So we probably would have wanted to wait a little bit longer, but I can just increase that again to do that. So I think we'll go with that. We'll increase our time. We'll do a complete orbit of Kerbin and then deorbit and see how close we can get back to the Space Center. Yeah, one last thing. You'll remember my rocket was completely OP. Well, yes, it was. I have a hell of a lot of fuel left. Very wasteful. I can hear people shouting at the screen now, but yeah, I've just jettisoned all that beautiful fuel. What a waste. So we're heading on back to that maneuver node. You can see we have now shot straight past where we want it to be. That is not a problem. If we click on the grey circle there, and we can actually drag our node along that orbital plane. So I think if we aim a little bit ahead here, we're still going to need to make adjustments. Okay, we are one minute from our node now. To make those adjustments again. Kerbin does spin fast. And I need to line my craft up with the maneuver node, so we'll try and find it here. There she is. Hit the SAS on that target. Now you can maneuver your craft with the SAS enabled, as you can see there. I got into a habit before they activated that in one of the updates of deactivating the SAS every time I make a maneuver and then reactivating. Doesn't make much difference. With the SAS activated, it's probably a bit more precise but a bit harder to make that maneuver. I am going to make a final adjustment. Now when decelerating and entering an atmosphere, that atmosphere is going to slow you right down. So this trajectory that we've got here is going to be inaccurate because it doesn't take into account the aero braking. And we're on the node. And I need to activate the engine. There we go. And you will see now that blue circle decreasing. And it is coming in to match that estimated trajectory that we have there. So hopefully with that node sort of going beyond the Kerbal Space Center, I have taken into account the aero braking and the motion of Kerbin as it spins on its axis. I'm probably going to be out, so I'm going to stop my engines a little bit before we encounter that node. About there. There we go. And now all that is left to do is watch as we descend back into the atmosphere. I'm going to disable the SAS, we don't really need it anymore. It can actually interfere with the parachutes when they deploy, just it'll sort of keep your pod in place, and sometimes it's possible to parachute down capsule first, which even though the parachutes will slow you right down, isn't a good idea. You can sometimes destroy your capsule and of course the brave Kerbinaut inside it. So we're heading down into Kerbin's thick atmosphere. We're starting to burn up. Hit that at 1.7 kilometers per second. And you can see there is the Kerbal Space Center, and we are heading straight for it. We're a little bit off. So I normally activate my parachute about 1500 meters. If it looks like you're coming down onto mountains, probably best to activate it a little bit higher than that, sort of 5 or 6. It doesn't really matter. I've always been a sucker for the dramatic. Too many nights spent watching Point Break, I think. Sorry if you've never seen it. A film of my era. Here we go. And you can see we're coming down into the hill, so I'm going to activate that parachute now. And there we go, and that slowed us right down to 11.4 meters per second. That's still a fair descent with a parachute, mainly due to the fact that I've got an almost full fuel tank there. So that's probably going to completely destroy the engine that I have there. Not too bothered about that. I think we have demonstrated this this manoeuvre nicely. So brave Jebediah is going to come in to land here. Oh, and there goes the engine, and we're okay. Normally we will roll down the hill, but no, we're good. And so that has been getting into orbit and deorbiting safely. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope I haven't waffled on too much. Any questions? Feel free to post comments. And I am Able One, and I am signing out.